Welcome to the Roll Call Podcast. I'm Joe McGuire along with Dominic Zappone. Dominic, I thought maybe we would be back here talking about what an unbelievable season the Yankees had. And listen, they had a great season, plain and simple. But this series, they blew it. And I think I think it's easy to blame Aaron Boone for what happened, but I think that's not fair in this instance. But there was no reason that this series is over, and there's no reason why the Dodgers are not a better baseball team than the Yankees. They're not.
Yeah, and I think the stats show that. I mean, I saw side-by-side comparisons, home runs, runs, strikeouts, all of that stuff, and we actually stacked up very well. We were better than them in most of those categories, but it came down to situational hitting. They hit way better when they had to with runners on. They pitched way better, and not for nothing, they managed it better too. I mean, Nestor Cortez coming in game 1 to face Ohtani and Freeman, not pitching a month before that. I mean, that's the one big thing I think Aaron Boone messed up there. But like you said, it's definitely not all on him because I mean, that 5th inning was atrocious. I mean, Aaron Boone's not going to be able to make the catch for Aaron Judge or cover first base for Rizzo or Cole, throw that ball to third base for Volpe. I mean, that just came down to fundamentals, and it's pretty embarrassing the way we went out. And the Dodgers knew what our flaws were, and they executed when we did not.
Yeah, my goodness. It's funny to think about that 5th inning and all of the disaster that got you there. And then Cole punches out Muncy and Ohtani and makes a really good pitch to Betts. And it looks like he escapes it. Yankees are still up 5-0 and they're rolling. I'll tell you right now, Dom. When that ball left Mookie Betts' bat, I felt like the Yankees were going to win the baseball game.
I mean, that was such a big momentum shift. It was 5-0. It would have been 5-0 after that. That would have been the third out. And yet we sit here without a World Series championship.
Now, I'll be honest, after he gave up the first base hit that made it 5-3, he was criticized for taking Cole out in game 2 when he was cruising. I thought in that inning, given all that had happened and the frustration that Garrett Cole was feeling, I would have taken him out of that ball game before you got to the tie game.
And not for nothing, but on the other side of the spectrum, I actually credit Aaron Boone in this case for putting Cole back out there because he went back out there for another couple innings and was great. Garrett Cole pitched exactly how we wanted him to pitch. The defense let him down, and he certainly didn't help it not covering first base in that instance, but he pitched good enough for us to win that game for sure. And there's nothing else you can really say about that. I mean, Garrett Cole coming back out to pitch those last couple innings, he was locked down. I mean, besides that 5th inning, you can't really ask for anything better from Garrett Cole. And I do want to give credit where it's due to Boone for putting him back out there because I think most managers would panic and go instantly to the bullpen. Listen, that was not Cole's fault besides that one Mookie Betts ground ball to first base. Other than that, he was phenomenal.
Well, listen, that's what aces do. And, he is a great pitcher. He was up to the moment. I'll tell you, Juan Soto probably cracked 700 million because of what he just did. What a great postseason by him. The guy who I told you and who I've been saying all year to me is really the most important guy on the Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton, continues to be very impressive for the Yankees in the postseason. and the Aaron Judge struggles continue. He had a buck 84 for the playoffs. Obviously had the big home run, which ended up being negated. Also had a great defensive play. The inning before that, simply taking his eye off the ball, kind of checking to see if maybe the runner had strayed too far. In a big moment like that. And I'm not going to tell Aaron Judge how to play the outfield, but he's got to see that ball into his glove. Doesn't matter where the runner is in that case. He knows that
Yeah.
hindsight. It was stupid. Maybe trying to do too much. Again, Dom, I almost wonder if he hits the home run, he makes that unbelievable catch against the fence on Freeman, and then ball's falling in. He comes in. He's got it lined up, almost trying to do too much there, Dom, thinking, yay, maybe that runner's gone halfway. Maybe I got to play on it. And then he doesn't make the play, and the disaster ensues.
Yeah, and listen, there's no excuses. It's the World Series. We're paying you to be the guy. You're the captain of the team. You shouldn't be making that error. But it's the World Series. It's his first time in the World Series. The pressure certainly got to him. It's unfortunate. Um, it's tough, man. I mean, I want to back the guy as much as I can, but he hasn't been god awful. This playoffs, he was pretty bad, but his career averages in the postseason are not good, but he has had a couple series where he's been good. So I don't think it's anything too crazy. I think it was mental for him this time, trying to do too much once he got there. And I mean, just not catching that ball in center field, that routine fly ball to center field, something we've never seen from him ever, something we'll probably never see from him again either. It's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. I know that. Just a really brutal way to go out.
Yeah. Again, I'm thinking how good he must have been feeling after the home run, after that great catch. And yeah, the weight of the world already was sitting on this guy's shoulders for not, having not delivered. He struck out in about half the at bats in the postseason. You know what? Again, I'm not going to tell Aaron Judge how to hit, but let's talk about it for a minute. His ability to go to right field and with power and to hit home runs that way he's better than anybody in baseball at it. And maybe the second best guy at that is his teammate Giancarlo Stanton. Soto obviously has the ability to do it to left field, which again, pretty incredible. When he was struggling, and again, a lot of breaking balls. He's such a smart hitter. He's such a good hitter. They were talking about maybe it being a timing issue or whatever, but his worst swings in those pitiful at bats, it was all him trying to pull the ball.
Yeah,
Which
and
for the
that's
life
yeah.
of me, I couldn't figure out. It's like, oh my God, dude, just go with it. You're so good at this. How are you not seeing that?
I think the mental aspect got to him pretty good here. I could kind of see it myself. I couldn't, nobody knows what he's thinking inside his head, obviously, but it looked like he was sitting slider. He was getting so many sliders down and away. I think he was just sitting slider. And then when that fastball came by, he just wasn't catching up to it. You kind of started to see the last couple games of the World Series. He was getting on it a little bit more. He was seeing those breaking balls down and laying off of them. And, the last game he put up a couple hits, obviously had that home run. So he was starting to see it, obviously too little, too late. But I think it was the mental aspect of, hey, they're throwing me a ton of sliders. I'm going to sit slider, which you probably shouldn't do. And then the fastballs he was getting, he was fouling them back. I mean, it all added up, and it was an unfortunate outcome.
Frustrating to watch, again, knowing how good this guy is, and then to see him get it figured out in the last couple games and for not. Two other guys I need us to talk about just for a minute. Austin Wells is a very good baseball player. He is an excellent catcher. He proved this year that he can hit very well at the major league level. Was awful at the bat in the playoffs, the entire postseason, to the point where Jose Trevino actually got a start in this series. That's how empty Austin Wells' bat has been, Dom.
Yeah, and I mean, that move, I completely understand it. You wanna try and change up any little thing you can, try and give it to Gervinho, and it obviously didn't work. I'll give him some slack here. He's a rookie,
Yep.
first ever full season. I mean, I I really didn't expect it to go on like this. I thought he would figure it out a little bit. He had a couple home runs throughout the playoffs, but it was a lot of strikeouts, a lot of ground outs. Uh, his defense, I will give him credit there. Coming up as a prospect, it was, oh, this guy can hit, but is he actually an MLB level catcher? And yes, he is. Defensively, he's been very good, throwing runners out, blocking the ball, pitch framing. He's a very good catcher. He's our catcher of the future. And he just fell into a slump at the absolute worst time.
Yeah, it's funny you sort of were defending him there, and I kind of am. I think that's an anomaly. Um, a long season from a rookie catcher, and again, you mentioned he obviously caught up to a few because he did it a few home runs, but he hit 120 in the postseason, and that was rough. The other guy, and a guy who I also really like, and will be back with the Yankees next season, and I'm excited for it. I like the energy he brings. He played third base like he's been playing it his whole life up until the fifth inning, when he could. That he should have honestly. Jazz Chisholm Jr. should have made that play. I know it was a terrible throw. If he keeps his eye on the ball, it hit him right in the web of the glove. No reason he doesn't make that play. I don't want to harp on it. I would have made that play, Dom. I would have made that play. I would have. Okay.
Yeah.
This guy hit a buck 82 in the postseason. I love the excitement. I love the energy. He's 26 years old, like Juan Soto. It's a young man who's really, I think, just getting into his prime. I think he's a great fit for the Yankees. But like him and if him and Wells could have hit a little bit more, because they did produce some runs. The bottom of the lineup, I thought, did a great job, really all throughout the postseason of being productive. If they could have just hit a little over the 200 line, I again, things might have worked out a little differently. That's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, back on the stats thing, I mean, I told you the comparisons earlier. I mean, we actually had a better statistical series than the Dodgers did. We hit the ball better, and by no means was it good. The Dodgers weren't great hitting the ball either. They just hit it when they had to. They hit in those situations where they had to. They didn't make mental mistakes. We did. And now they're sitting here with the World Series. And to Jazz Chisholm, I love Jazz. He's under control for another couple of years. I think he's a perfect fit with this team. I think he needs to work on a few things in the offseason because with his athleticism, the speed on the bases, he could be a real threat. If he could get a little bit more contact in that bat, I think he's awesome for us. He literally can play any position you want. I don't know if he comes in as the third baseman next year, the second baseman if Glaber doesn't come back, even an outfielder. Who really knows? The guy can play defense very well at any position. He's got the power in the bat. We've seen it. He's got that swag. He fits in New York. He loves New York. I am excited to see what he could do next year, but
To be
I would have
this
liked to see a little bit more.
to be the starting third baseman in the World Series at a position you've never played before you got to that team, I'll tell you, hats off to that guy. Again, I only point out the disappointment. These two obviously are going to be with us, for the foreseeable future. And if we're in this position next year, I'm expecting those two guys to do a little bit better. Um, I have not been a Clay Holmes fan the entire time, and I have explained to anybody who will listen that the role of closer in Major League Baseball is the most difficult job in sports. You come in with the task of protecting a small lead, sometimes a run or two, maybe three, but no more than that. Usually it's one. Generally, you're facing the team's best hitter and or their best offensive option is on the bench waiting to face you. This is a tough job. And I wrote an article about this a few years ago, and I've introduced this, I like to think, into the lexicon, this Mariano Rivera effect, where, first of all, we expect all of our relief pitchers to come out and throw zeros. And that is not realistic. It just isn't. Okay. The other thing is you think you could just, everybody hated Aroldis Chapman the last couple of years. This guy sucks. It's like this guy's still one of the 5 best closers in baseball. He's no Mariano. Yeah, moron. Aaron Judge is no Babe Ruth.
I mean, no,
Wait, what a
Mariano.
stupid thing to say. You can't compare every single Yankee to a Yankee legend.
That's part of the problem with being a Yankee, though. You get those comparisons because you are a Yankee. That's a lot of the media's fault, but hey, that's what you get with playing with the Yankees.
This guy's no Lou Gehrig. Who the hell is?
Nobody.
I mean, ridiculous. Again, and this idea too. I was just having this conversation with a buddy the other day about Anthony Volpe. This could be the next Derek Jeter. What does that even mean?
That's
what do
where
you
we
mean
set
by
ourselves
that?
up to fail, though. That's the problem. We don't want to set these expectations. Oh, this is the next Jeter. Oh, this is the next Babe Ruth. Why don't they just be themselves? Why don't we just let them be themselves? We got to stop with these comparisons. They never work. It does not work, ever. And you mentioned Volpe. Credit to Anthony Volpe. He had a very, very good postseason after a kind of iffy regular season. He stepped up and he hit when it mattered. Obviously hit that grand slam in game 4. I mean, besides that one little throwing error to third base, it was actually the right decision too.
Yep.
It was just a little bit panicked, threw it a little bit too quick and off a little bit, but he had an awesome season. I'm very excited to see the steps he can take in the offseason leading into next year. I'm very excited about him, obviously Jazz. But again, with the comparisons, man, we just got to stop. There's not going to be a next Derek Jeter. It's not going to happen. We want Anthony Volpe to be the best that he can be. And I think he's slowly taking those steps. I think next year we'll see a little bit more contact in the bat. Defense is there. He's a gold glove caliber shortstop. I think that contact aspect will come next year.
Let me give you an example of why what you just said, and I agree with why people are so stupid. Do you realize that the 3 seasons Didi Gregorius was the starting shortstop, he had better statistical numbers in any year of Derek Jeter's career? And I think we would all agree that Didi Gregorius is no Derek Jeter. So when you say you want Anthony Volpe to be the next Derek Jeter, what exactly are you talking about? What do you mean by that? Do you mean dating A-list actresses? Do you mean the flip or the catch? What are you talking about? The home run? The Jeffrey Mayer homer? The Mr. November moment? Which Derek Jeter championship moment are you referring to when you say you want Anthony Volpe to be the next Derek Jeter? And then realize the unrealistic expectations that you're setting for this guy. Some people couldn't get rid of Didi Gregorius fast enough. And it's like every year that guy put up numbers that Jeter never put up. Didn't win any championships. And so that guy had to go.
And listen, credit to Didi. I love that guy. He was honestly a perfect fill-in right after Derek Jeter. He came in, did his job, whatever it is, what it is. We got to stop setting these expectations for ourselves, man. Listen, we want Anthony Volpe to be our shortstop of the future. What does that mean? We need him to be a better than above average player.
Yes.
And I
think
that is in there somewhere. I really
agree.
Do. The defense has already showed that it's capable of being there. He showed some flashes in this World Series and in the entire playoffs. I mean, we just got to stop with these crazy comparisons and just let them be themselves and let them expand and get better as they get older. And I mean, listen, Volpe was a top 5 prospect in all of baseball a couple of years ago for a reason. He certainly hasn't lived up to it yet. But I mean, shortstop of the New York Yankees that grew up in New Jersey, idolizing Derek Jeter. I mean, come on. You expect this guy to step in and just be a stud right away? The guy's so young. I mean, come on. We got to give him his time. Stop putting these expectations on his shoulders like this. We just got to let him breathe and get out there and grow.
again, you would think that Derek Jeter hit 350 with 35 home runs every year. I mean, and that just is not the case. You're talking about a guy who hit in the low 300s with generally less than 20 dingers a year, made a lot of errors, had limited range. That's what you're talking about. But you're right. Listen, if Anthony Volpe can be like an above average starting shortstop for the next 10 years, and I don't think there's any reason to think that he's not going to continue to get better. He can hit big league pitching. He knows what he's doing. And he did in his biggest moment at the plate. He came through.
And
And
you
that's what you're
saw,
looking
yeah,
for.
you saw the power is there when it's needed, but he's at his best when he's hitting the ball line drives to right center field, right field. That's he knows that too. That's kind of what he got back to in these playoffs. You kind of saw that he was seeing pitches. Plate discipline was one of his best features coming up in the system, and you saw it in these playoffs. I don't know. I listen. Nobody's Derek Jeter, and we don't want him to be Derek Jeter. We want him to be Anthony Volpe. We want him to continue to get better as he gets older. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah. Listen, I think all in all, you saw this kid improve at the plate. He hit about 40 points higher this year. He got on base at a better clip. I think he's going to develop into the next Derek Jeter, which is going to be a shortstop that can hold that spot down for a decade or more.
Yeah,
Whatever other things you think that means, it doesn't. Again, you just want a guy who is a homegrown product. You got to love the jersey thing. But this kid he's the real deal. I mean, with him and Jazz Chisholm, if they can re-sign Soto,
we
uh,
have that core in place. Yeah.
Jason Dominguez, Austin Wells. I mean,
Mhm.
right now, Jose Trevino's an all-star backup. That's a pretty good scenario to be in. I don't know what this team is going to look like next season. Also, I don't believe anything that Juan Soto said after the game.
No, I mean, listen, he's a Scott Boras client. As
Yes,
soon as he's a free agent, he's gonna be like, "Yep, I'm open to everything." Obviously,
that's
that's what he's gonna
that is
say. I don't know why.
100%
I
what
don't know why
Scott
people are
Boras
thinking. Yeah,
told him to say
yeah.
when he was asked about it, because
Garrett Cole did the same thing.
he is otherwise strongly given the impression he is very happy in New York. I think hitting alongside Judge and Stanton for a few more years, I think that seems like a pretty appetizing situation. I think right now, the way the American League stacks up, I think if you're Juan Soto, I think that's where you want to be. No
Mhm.
better place to do it than New York. And again, I mean, the protection Aaron Judge gives you is unparalleled.
Yeah. And I mean, if you really want to get into it, you look at what are some of the other options that Soto could be looking at? Okay, the Mets. Do you really want to go to the Mets? Do you want to go to the little brother in the city? The Dodgers. The Dodgers are not actually going to shell out $700 million again this offseason to get another outfielder. There's really not a lot of options out there. There's not a lot of teams. If he's getting this historic contract, there's not going to be more than a handful of options out there for him. The guy played in New York already. He loved it here. I don't care what anybody says. You could see it every single time the Yankees fans were chanting his name, chanting "Resign Soto." He would give Judge these looks, crack these smiles. He gave it away. He wants to be here. Now it's just on us to offer a contract that's not embarrassing. I mean, listen, if you ask me, I don't think we're going to have the highest offer out there for him this offseason, but I think we're going to be close enough to get him back in here. I think he does want to be a Yankee. He obviously wants to get the money he deserves, but we just have to match whatever anybody else offers him.
Yeah, I think they should. I mean, again, how often do you find a guy in the middle of his prime who's been to a few World Series already? Um,
When's the last time we had this amazing left-handed bat in the middle of his prime
Correct. Which
at
is
Yankee
so, I
Stadium?
mean, we've talked about it, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, the Yankees don't win championships without big left-handed bats, and that's
Yeah,
the biggest one in baseball, and it's the most available one right now. Listen,
yeah.
they rolled the dice on Aaron Judge 2 years ago, and I don't think you can argue with the results so far if you're the New York Yankees. This guy is significantly younger than Aaron Judge, looking for a
Yeah.
big long-term contract. You saw what he did on the biggest stage. He had 327 in the postseason. That at bat again in Cleveland, by the way, I watched it again the other night, and man, oh man, that was something else. And his arrogance, confidence, whatever you want to call it, I love it. It needs to be in the number one media market in the country. And the Mets suck. So why even waste your talented years in a ballpark that, quite frankly, does nothing for your swing?
Listen, this team is going to look a lot different next year. I really do believe that, just because of the fact that we have a ton of free agents coming up. Obviously, Soto being the biggest one, but other guys like Glaber, Clay Holmes, like we've mentioned. Soto's priority number one, no question in my mind. I do think they will get it done. It's Scott Boras, though, so it's going to take time. You're going to see reports of other teams coming in offering more. Oh, there's a mystery team here, blah, blah, blah. No, there's not. They're just driving up the price for the Yankees. So I think that'll get done. You know, sucks to say. I wish he had a World Series to go off of it, but I think we'll get that done. And we go from there. I mean, listen, we have the core that we want. We have a great mixture of young guys and those veteran guys. Got to fix the defense. Could always use help pitching. I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. I think Boone's definitely coming back. And like you said before, having that left-handed hitter, I mean, this is the first time we've been in the World Series in 15 years, and we had the best left-handed hitter in baseball.
Yep.
No, duh. I mean, come on. What are we saying here? If you lose this guy, it's just a joke.
This guy's the next Babe Ruth. um, my final thought here, listen, for I know some people have talked about Garrett Cole has an opt out. He's not going to get a better deal than the one he's currently in. It would be foolish for him to opt out. And
Yeah,
he's with
and
the team that I'm pretty sure he wants to be with for the rest of his life. So
there's also a clause in there. He can opt out, which he will probably do, but we can negate that by adding on an extra year. So he's not going anywhere. He's not getting not like we'll just add a 10th year to the contract and he'll be here for the rest of his career. That
it's
I
one of
haven't even
those.
thought about.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
okay.
he's not going anywhere. Yeah.
Good. Listen, my bounce back guys this year, I said Stanton needed to have a big year,
He did. He did.
and he did. Carlos Rodon, a lot of people were down on him. I thought for sure this guy was going to have the bounce back year that he had. And I think going forward, I would expect more of what we saw when he was. I mean, look, he's going to have some clunkers. That's that guy. Clark Schmidt in a full healthy season. This is a pretty good number 3 starter for this
Yeah, I
team.
mean, you saw it the first half of the season. He was unbelievable in the first half of the season.
And
Talk
Louis
about him,
Gill,
Luis Hill. He's
I
a
tell you,
monster. Yeah.
I think this team, I like the way it's constructed. It's young. The pitching is very good. You bring back Soto. I like what this team can do next year. So came up short. I'm not mad at it. I'm not going to be angry. I've seen people that, the Yankees suck. And it's like, oh, listen, you're an idiot, clearly. And if you really love this sport, and I understand the stupid fan base that we're a part of. It is the stupidest fan base on the planet. Maybe because there's so many fans, a lot of casuals, I would assume.
Oh
But
yeah.
the season the Yankees just had, to me, is one for the ages. A lot of people gave up on them a little bit midway when they had their little struggles. I thought this team was perfectly constructed. I thought the pitching depth was going to be enough to get them where they needed to be. They came up a bad inning, and my God, Freddie Freeman a week ago was terrible. He was a terrible baseball player.
Yeah, I mean, what's up with that, man? Come on, the guy was awful the first half of the playoffs, and then all of a sudden he comes to the World Series and he's just the best hitter of all time. What the hell was that?
That's going to live with me for the rest of my life because I don't know what was going on there. Also, I'm going to end it with my final thought. Freddie Freeman has the most douchebag punchable face I've ever seen in my life. Do you agree?
No, actually. It sucks to say this because Freddie Freeman basically single-handedly just destroyed us and took away our hopes for a championship. But the guy's awesome. He really is. I think he's a perfect person. He's a great individual person. Obviously, the baseball stats back him up. He's one of the best first basemen of this generation. And it sucks that he was on the Dodgers and not the Yankees. We could have had him a few years ago, but I don't know. I think it's just sad. It's really sad. I don't know. He quite literally single-handedly beat us in the World Series. In the first few games, you looked at the numbers, he was out hitting our entire team by himself.
Six
I
straight.
don't think it's I don't think it's being talked enough about how bad Shohei Ohtani was also. I understand it's his first time in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking about that more? I mean, the guy was abysmal.
We could also talk about the $1.2 billion the Dodgers spent to buy the World Series, but maybe we'll
on two players.
Yeah, maybe we'll pick that up on another day. All right, I think Freeman's got a douchebag face. I'm not saying he's not a great player. Dom disagrees. We'll head into the off season. He might be a good person, but I do want to punch him in his face. He's
after
got that kind of
what
face.
he did to us, what he did to us, yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
All right, well, great season by the Yankees. It sucks that it fell short, but you know what? I'll take it.
For next year.
October baseball is always my favorite. For Dom Zappone, I'm Joe McGuire. We'll catch you next time on the Roll Call Podcast.